The sky burned orange and red as another explosion lit up the horizon. Ambassador pressed her 4 delicate hands against the cold metal wall of the underground bunker and felt the vibration of distant bombs. Her wings, folded tightly against her back, trembled with fear. Around her, hundreds of huddled together in the darkness. Children cried softly while their parents tried to comfort them with quiet clicks and whistles. They were not warriors. They had never been warriors. For 10,000 years they had lived in peace on their beautiful world of Prime. They were artists, musicians, and scientists. Their cities were made of crystal and light. Their ships traveled between stars to trade and share knowledge. They had no weapons. They had no army. They believed that intelligence and kindness would protect them from the darkness of the universe. They were wrong. The Empire had come without warning. Their massive warships had appeared in the sky like dark clouds blocking the sun. Within hours, they had destroyed every ship in orbit. Within days, they had bombed the great cities into ruins. Now, after 2 weeks of constant attack, they faced extinction. Closed her large, compound eyes and tried to breathe slowly. She was the last surviving member of the High Council. The others had died when the council hall was destroyed on the first day. Now, the responsibility of her entire species rested on her thin shoulders. A young named approached her with shaking legs. "Ambassador," said in a small voice, "the communication array is ready, but I must tell you the truth. I do not think anyone will answer." Opened her eyes and looked at the young technician. Was barely an adult, her wings still showing the bright colors of youth. She should have been studying at the university or falling in love for the first time. Instead, she was hiding in a bunker, waiting to die. "I know," said gently, "but we must try. It is all we have left." She followed through the crowded bunker to a small room filled with salvaged equipment. Other technicians had worked for days without sleep to build this emergency transmitter. It was their last hope, their very last hope. Sat down in front of the microphone and looked at the blinking lights of the transmitter. She had prepared a message in the standard galactic language. She had sent copies to every known species in the region. They had not responded. They had not responded. The Quinn Collective had sent a short message expressing sympathy, but explaining that they could not risk war with the Empire. No one was coming to help. But there was one more option. One desperate, terrifying option. Said slowly, "Have you adjusted the frequency to reach the Sol system?" Wings spread slightly in surprise. "Ambassador, you cannot be serious. The Sol system is the home of the humans. I know what they are. They are dangerous beyond imagination. Their planet has a gravity so strong that it crushes most species. They evolved alongside predators with teeth as long as your arm. They eat the flesh of other creatures. They fought wars against each other for thousands of years before they even reached space. Ambassador, they are monsters." Turned to face, and what are they? Was silent. "They are also monsters," continued. "They are destroying our world. They are killing our people. They will not stop until every is dead. So I ask you, what do we have to lose by calling the humans?" The young technician had no answer. She simply nodded and adjusted the transmitter to the correct frequency. The signal would take time to reach human space, but it would reach it. Took a deep breath and pressed the button to begin recording. "This is Ambassador of the people," she said, her voice steady despite her fear. "We are sending this message to the humans of Earth. We are sending this message because we have nowhere else to turn. The Empire has invaded they are killing us. They are destroying everything we have built. We are not warriors. We have no weapons to fight back. We have no army to defend ourselves. We are dying and no one in the galaxy will help us." She paused and looked at the frightened faces of the around her. Children, elders, families, all of them depending on her words. "We know what you are," continued. "We know that you come from a dangerous world. We know that you are predators. We know that the galaxy fears you, but we have also heard stories. Stories that humans help those who cannot help themselves. stories that humans fight for justice, even when it costs them greatly. We do not know if these stories are true, we only know that you are our last hope." Her voice finally broke, and tears began to flow from her large eyes. "Please," she whispered, "please help us, we will give you anything. We will do anything. Just please do not let our children die. Do not let our species disappear from the universe. If there is any kindness in your hearts, any mercy in your souls, please answer our call. This is Ambassador of the Please Help Us." She released the button and sat in silence. The message was sent. Now they could only wait. The waiting was the hardest part. Hours passed, then days. They continued their assault above, their bombs falling closer and closer to the hidden bunker. Food supplies grew smaller. Water became precious. Hope began to fade like starlight at dawn. On the 5th day after sending the message, sat alone in the communication room. She had not slept in 3 days. Her body ached with exhaustion, but she refused to leave the transmitter. If an answer came, she wanted to be there to receive it. Entered the room with a small cup of water. "Ambassador, you must rest. You will make yourself sick." "I cannot rest," replied, "not while my people are dying." The message traveled far. Perhaps the humans did not receive it. Perhaps they received it but chose to ignore it. Perhaps the stories about them were just stories, nothing more. Accepted the water and took a small sip. Perhaps, but I will wait anyway. Suddenly, the transmitter crackled to life. Both froze as a voice emerged from the static. It was speaking in the standard galactic language, but with a strange accent that had never heard before. "This is Admiral of the United Nations Space Fleet, commanding the 3rd Fleet from the flagship Resolve. We have received your distress signal, Ambassador. We are coming." His hands began to shake. She grabbed the microphone with trembling fingers. "Admiral, this is Ambassador. Thank you. Thank you for answering. But I must warn you, the Empire is powerful. They have hundreds of warships. They have weapons that can destroy cities in seconds. Are you certain you want to involve yourselves in this conflict?" There was a pause before the Admiral responded. When he spoke, his voice was calm and steady, like a mountain that could not be moved. "Ambassador, the 3rd Fleet consists of 200 warships. We carry 50,000 Marines trained for combat in any environment. We have been fighting wars since before we learned to write. We do not fear anyone." Grab's arm, her eyes wide with shock. 200 warships, 50,000 warriors. How is this possible? The Admiral continued speaking. "We will arrive at Prime in approximately 72 hours. Until then, I need you to do something important. I need you to stay alive. Hide your people. Protect them as best you can. When we arrive, we will handle the rest." Felt tears streaming down her face again, but this time they were tears of hope. "Admiral, I do not know how to thank you. We have nothing to offer in return. We are poor. We are weak. We cannot pay you for your help." "Ambassador," the Admiral said, and there was something warm in his voice now, something almost gentle. "You asked for help. That is enough. You do not need to pay us. You do not need to give us anything. You needed help and we are coming to give it. That is what humans do." The transmission ended, and the room fell silent. Sank to the floor, her wings spread wide in disbelief. "They are coming," she whispered. "They are coming to save us." Stood up on shaking legs. She needed to tell her people. She needed to give them hope. She walked out of the communication room and into the main chamber of the bunker. Hundreds of frightened eyes turned to look at her. "My friends," announced, her voice echoing through the dark space, "I have just received a message from the Sol system. The humans have answered our call. They are sending a war fleet to help us. 200 ships, 50,000 warriors. They will be here in 3 days." For a moment there was only silence. Then someone began to cry. Then another. Soon the entire bunker was filled with the sound of weeping, but it was not the weeping of despair. It was the weeping of relief. It was the weeping of people who had accepted death and suddenly discovered that life was still possible. A mother held her child close and whispered, thanks to whatever powers had heard their prayers. An elderly who had lost his entire family closed his eyes and let the tears flow freely. Young couples embraced each other and spoke of the future they might still have. Watched her people find hope again, and she made a silent promise. If the humans truly saved them, if they survived this nightmare, she would spend the rest of her life making sure the galaxy knew the truth about the... They were not monsters. They were something far more wonderful. They were protectors. Above the bunker, they continued to bomb the planet. They did not know that help was coming. They did not know that their easy conquest was about to become something much more difficult. They did not know that somewhere in the darkness of space, 200 human warships were racing toward Prime at maximum speed. Admiral stood on the bridge of the Resolve and watched the stars streak past as the fleet traveled through hyperspace. His officers moved around him with quiet efficiency, preparing for the battle ahead. They had done this before, many times. They would do it again. Admiral, his second-in-command, said, "All ships report ready for combat. The Marines are eager to deploy." Nodded slowly. "Good. Send a message to all ships. Tell them what we are fighting for. Tell them that an innocent species is being destroyed by bullies and monsters. Tell them that children are dying while the rest of the galaxy watches and does nothing. Tell them that we are going to change that." The officer saluted and left to deliver the message. Looked out at the rushing stars and thought about the fear in Ambassador's voice. She had expected nothing. She had hoped for a miracle, and now a miracle was coming. He smiled slightly. They had no idea what was about to happen to them. They thought they were strong. They thought they were powerful. They had never faced humans in battle. They were about to learn a very important lesson. When answer a call for help, they answer with everything they have. Commander Park stood at the front of the Vanguard formation, her assault cruiser leading 20 ships through the darkness of hyperspace. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and a calm voice that could cut through any chaos. Her crew called her the Ice Commander because she never panicked, never raised her voice, never showed fear. Some people thought she was cold. Her crew knew better. She simply saved her emotions for after the battle was won. "Time to arrival," she asked without turning from the viewport. 17 minutes, Commander," her navigation officer replied. "We will exit hyperspace before the main fleet as planned." Nodded. The Vanguard's job was simple but dangerous. They would arrive first, assess the situation, and engage the enemy to create confusion. The main fleet would arrive 30 minutes later with overwhelming force. It was a classic human tactic, one that had worked in countless battles throughout history. "All hands," said into the ship-wide communication system, "prepare for combat. We will be engaging hostile forces in less than 20 minutes. Remember your training. Remember why we are here. There are innocent people dying on that planet, and we are going to stop it." Throughout the 20 Vanguard ships, men and women checked their weapons, adjusted their armor, and said quiet prayers to whatever gods they believed in. Some were veterans of many battles. Others had never seen real combat before, but all of them were ready. All of them were human. Meanwhile, in orbit around Prime, Fleet Commander of the Empire stood on the bridge of his flagship and watched the planet burn below. He was a massive creature, nearly 3 meters tall, with thick-scaled skin and eyes that glowed red in the dim light. He had conquered 17 worlds in his career. Prime would be his 18th. "How much longer until complete pacification?" he asked his subordinate. "Another week, perhaps 2, the subordinate replied. "They are hiding underground. Our ground forces are having difficulty locating all of their bunkers." Made a sound of displeasure. "Increase the bombardment, collapse their tunnels. I want this world empty of life before the month ends." "Yes, Commander." Turned back to the viewport and smiled. They had been so easy to conquer. They had no weapons, no warriors, no will to fight. They had simply cried and begged and died. It was almost disappointing. He had hoped for at least some resistance. His thoughts were interrupted by an alarm, a loud, sharp alarm that he had not heard in many years. "Commander," the sensor officer shouted. "Hyperspace signatures detected, multiple ships incoming." Spun around. "What? How many ships? What species?" The sensor officer stared at his display with wide eyes. His scales had turned pale with fear. 20 ships, Commander, and they are human." The bridge fell silent. Every officer stopped what they were doing and turned to look at the commander. The word human hung in the air like poison. Felt something he had not felt in decades. He felt afraid. "Battle stations," he said, his voice suddenly quiet. "All ships, battle stations, prepare to engage." But before his fleet could fully prepare, the human vanguard exploded out of hyperspace like predators bursting from hiding. 20 ships, smaller than cruisers but moving with terrifying speed and precision. They did not hesitate. They did not stop to analyze or negotiate. They simply attacked. Commander Park watched the tactical display as her ships spread out in a perfect attack formation. The fleet consisted of about 100 vessels of various sizes. The odds were 5-1 against her vanguard. She smiled slightly. "All ships target their weapons systems first," she ordered. "We do not need to destroy them. We just need to make them bleed. Fire at will." Human weapons technology was different from most galactic species. While others focused on large, powerful beams that took time to charge, humans preferred fast, precise strikes. They fired solid projectiles at incredible speeds. Their missiles carried warheads that could penetrate any shield. Their point defense systems could track and destroy incoming fire with machine-like accuracy. They had never faced humans in battle before. They were about to receive a painful education. The first human salvo tore through the formation like a knife through soft fruit. 3 ships lost their main weapons in seconds. 2 more suffered hull breaches. The returned fire, but their beams were slow and easy to predict. The human ships danced around the attacks like leaves in the wind. On the surface of Prime, Ambassador emerged from the bunker entrance and looked up at the sky. She could see flashes of light in the darkness above, bright explosions that marked the beginning of a battle. The humans had arrived. Stood beside her, wings trembling. "They are actually fighting. They are fighting for us." "Yes," whispered. "Yes, they are." Back in orbit was shouting orders as his bridge shook from another hit. "Focus fire on their lead ship. Destroy the commander." 20 vessels turned their weapons towards cruiser. She watched the incoming fire on her display and calculated the angles in her head. "Helm, execute evasive pattern 7. Point defense full coverage. All ships continue the attack." Her cruiser twisted and spun in ways that should have been impossible for a vessel of its size. The beams passed harmlessly through empty space. Their missiles were destroyed by precise defensive fire before they could reach her hull. And all the while, her own weapons continued to tear into enemy ships. Watched in disbelief as his fleet struggled against 20 human vessels. His ships were larger. His weapons were more powerful. He had the advantage of numbers, but the humans fought like demons. They were everywhere at once, striking from unexpected angles, retreating before he could concentrate fire, then attacking again from a different direction. "Commander," his subordinate said with fear in his voice, "we have lost 12 ships. 20 more are damaged. The humans have lost none." Slammed his fist against the console. "Impossible. They are only 20 ships. How can they be defeating us?" Before anyone could answer, the sensor officer screamed in terror. "More hyperspace signatures. Many more. Commander, there are 180 additional human ships incoming." Felt his blood freeze in his veins. 200 human warships. 200 vessels crewed by creatures from a world so dangerous that evolution had turned them into perfect killing machines. He had heard the stories about humans. He had dismissed them as exaggeration. Now he understood that the stories had not been exaggerated at all. Admiral led the main fleet out of hyperspace and immediately assessed the situation. The Vanguard had done excellent work. The fleet was already in chaos, ships scattered and damaged. Now it was time to finish the job. "All ships, this is the Admiral," he said calmly. "Engage at will, protect the planet below. No vessel escapes until they surrender completely. Let them see what happens when they attack innocent people." The full weight of the Third Fleet descended upon the like a storm from ancient nightmares. 180 additional warships joined the 20 of the Vanguard. Their weapons fired in coordinated volleys that lit up the darkness of space. Their fighters launched in swarms, hunting down damaged vessels like wolves chasing wounded prey. Commander Park allowed herself a moment of satisfaction as she watched the Admiral's fleet join the battle. The formation was collapsing. Ships were trying to flee. Others were signaling surrender. The arrogant invaders who had burned a peaceful world were now discovering what it meant to face a real enemy. "Commander," her communication officer reported, "Admiral is on the line." Accepted the connection. "Admiral, the Vanguard is ready for further orders." "Excellent work, Commander Park." The Admiral's voice was warm with approval. "Your attack disrupted their formation perfectly. Now I need you to lead a squadron to protect the planet's surface. They may try to cause more damage before we can fully defeat them." "Understood, Admiral. I will protect the—" She selected 10 ships and led them toward the planet, positioning them to intercept any attack aimed at the surface. Behind her, the rest of the fleet continued to destroy the force with methodical precision. In the bunker below, they had gathered around the communication equipment to listen to the battle reports, had managed to tap into the human communication frequencies, and now they could hear the voices of their rescuers. "Squadron 3, concentrate fire on that battleship. Do not let it reach the planet." "Copy that. Target acquired. Firing." Enemy cruiser attempting to flee. All nearby vessels intercept and disable. Confirmed hit. Enemy cruiser is dead in space. They listened with wide eyes and open mouths. The humans spoke of battle the way they might speak of farming or building. There was no panic in their voices, no fear, just calm, professional efficiency. These were not savage monsters. These were warriors who had trained their entire lives for moments like this. Ambassador wiped tears from her eyes as she listened. Every word, every command, every report meant that her people were being saved. The nightmare was ending. The darkness was retreating. Knew that the battle was lost. His fleet was broken. More than half of his ships were destroyed or disabled. The rest were scattered, fighting desperately against an enemy that seemed to be everywhere at once. "All ships retreat," he ordered finally. "Jump to hyperspace, withdraw from the system." But the humans were not letting them escape so easily. Admiral had positioned his ships to block the most common escape routes. Vessels that tried to flee were caught and disabled. Captains who surrendered were taken prisoner. Those who continued to fight were destroyed without mercy. On the bridge of his flagship, watched his empire crumble around him. He had been so confident. He had been so proud. He had thought that no one would ever challenge the might of the empire. He had forgotten about the humans. "Commander," his subordinate said weakly, "our engines are damaged. We cannot jump to hyperspace. What are your orders?" Looked at the viewport. Human ships surrounded his crippled flagship. Their weapons were aimed directly at his bridge. He could see the cold metal of their hulls, the efficient design of their weapons, the absolute lack of mercy in their positioning. He had 2 choices. He could fight to the death and accomplish nothing, or he could surrender and live to fight another day. "Signal the humans," he said through clenched teeth. "Tell them we surrender." The battle was over. Admiral received the surrender signal and felt a grim satisfaction. The fleet was destroyed. The planet was safe. They would survive. "All ships cease fire," he ordered. "Secure all prisoners. Begin rescue operations on the planet's surface. And someone get me a connection to Ambassador. I want to tell her personally that her people are going to be okay." On the surface, heard the announcement that they had surrendered. She fell to her knees and began to sob uncontrollably. Around her, they embraced each other and cried with joy. Children who had been silent for weeks finally began to laugh again. Elders who had prepared for death now spoke of the future. They had come, they had fought, they had won. And they had done it all because a desperate ambassador had sent a message asking for help. Knelt beside and put a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Ambassador, the human admiral wants to speak with you." Wiped her eyes and tried to compose herself. She took the communication device with shaking hands. "Ambassador," the admiral's voice was kind. "This is Admiral, the fleet has been defeated. Your world is safe. We will be sending rescue teams to the surface immediately. Medical personnel, food, water, everything you need. Hold on just a little longer. Help is on the way." Could not find words. She tried to speak, but only tears came. Finally, she managed to whisper two simple words. "Thank you." And somewhere in the darkness of space, surrounded by the wreckage of enemy ships and the lights of his victorious fleet, Admiral smiled. "You are welcome," he said. "Now let us help you rebuild." Captain Lee Dong-ho stood in the hangar bay of the assault carrier Unbreakable and watched his Marines prepare for deployment. 50 drop ships waited in neat rows, their engines warming up, their pilots running final checks. Inside each ship, Marines checked their weapons, tested their armor, and reviewed their mission objectives one final time. The space battle was over, but the war on the ground was just beginning. "Listen up," Dong-ho announced through the hangar speakers. "They still have forces on the surface. Ground troops, armor, artillery. Our job is to neutralize them and protect the civilians. This is not a battle for glory. This is a rescue mission. Every alien life we save is a victory. Every child we protect is worth more than 100 enemy kills. Do you understand?" 5,000 voices answered as one. "Yes, Captain." Dong-ho nodded with satisfaction. His Marines were ready. They had trained for years for missions exactly like this. They knew how to fight, but more importantly, they knew why they were fighting. "Lieutenant," he said into his personal communicator, "are the advance teams ready?" Lieutenant answered immediately. She was young for her rank, only 26 years old, but she had already proven herself in 3 combat operations. Her soldiers trusted her completely. They would follow her into any danger. "Ready, Captain," she replied. "First and second squads will secure the main bunker location. Third squad will establish a medical station. Fourth squad will provide perimeter security." "Good, you have command of the ground forces. I will coordinate from orbit. Remember, these people have suffered greatly. They are afraid. Show them that humans can be gentle as well as strong." Allowed herself a small smile. "Understood, Captain. We will bring them home safely." The drop ships launched in waves, falling toward the planet like rain from the heavens. Inside her ship, looked at the faces of her soldiers. They were young and old, men and women from every nation on Earth. They had come together under one flag, the flag of humanity, and now they were going to save lives. The surface of Prime was a wasteland. Cities that had once glittered like jewels were now piles of broken crystal and twisted metal. Forests that had been green and full of life were now black and dead. Rivers ran gray with ash. The sky was dark with smoke and dust. Felt anger rise in her chest as she looked at the destruction through the drop ship window. They had done this. They had taken a beautiful world and turned it into a graveyard. They had killed innocent people who had never done them any harm. "Landing in 2 minutes," the pilot announced. "Area appears clear. No enemy contacts detected." The drop ships touched down near the bunker where Ambassador and the other were hiding. Marines poured out of the vessels and immediately formed a defensive perimeter. Jumped down from her ship and felt her boots crunch on the ash-covered ground. The entrance to the bunker was a simple metal door set into a hillside. It was dented and scratched, showing signs of the bombing it had endured, but it had held. The inside were alive. Ambassador spoke into her communicator. "This is Lieutenant of the United Nations Marine Corps. We are outside your bunker. It is safe to come out. Please open the door." For a long moment, nothing happened. Then slowly, the metal door began to open. The first to emerge was a small child, no more than 5 or 6 years old. It had large eyes that reflected the gray light, delicate wings that were folded against its back, and 4 small hands that clutched a piece of cloth like a precious treasure. It looked up with an expression of pure fear. Immediately dropped to one knee to bring herself to the child's level. She removed her helmet so the child could see her face. She smiled gently. "Hello, little one," she said softly. "My name is, I am here to help you. You do not need to be afraid anymore." The child stared at her with those huge eyes. Then slowly, it reached out one of its small hands and touched his face. The touch was light, like a butterfly landing on her skin. "You are warm," the child said in a tiny voice. "The story said we're cold like metal." Smile grew wider. "We are warm, little one, just like you." More began to emerge from the bunker. They came hesitantly at first, afraid of the armored humans who surrounded them. But when they saw kneeling with the child, when they saw the gentle smile on her face, their fear began to fade. Ambassador emerged last, supported by. She was exhausted, her wings drooping with fatigue, her eyes red from crying. But when she saw the human Marines, when she saw the drop ships and the medical supplies being unloaded, she stood. "Lieutenant," said, her voice hoarse, "I am Ambassador. I do not have words to express our gratitude." Rose to her feet and saluted respectfully. "Ambassador, it is our honor to help. Admiral has sent food, water, medical supplies, and engineers. We will begin relief operations immediately." "How many of your people came?" asked. 5,000 Marines are landing across the planet right now. More support personnel will arrive in the coming days. We are not leaving until your world is safe and your people are cared for. Closed her eyes and let out a long, shaking breath. "We have nothing to give you in return. We are broken and poor. Our cities are destroyed. Our resources are gone." Shook her head firmly. "Ambassador, we did not come here for payment. We came because you needed help. That is reason enough." The child who had first emerged from the bunker tugged on sleeve. "Will you protect us from the bad ones? The ones who killed my grandmother?" Looked down at the child and felt her heart clench with emotion. She knelt again and took the child's small hands in her own. "Yes," she promised. "I will protect you. My friends will protect you. We will not let anyone hurt you again." Across the planet, similar scenes were playing out. Human dropships landed near every known shelter. Marines helped survivors emerge from hiding. Medical personnel treated the injured. Engineers began clearing debris and setting up temporary shelters. But the ground forces were still a threat. Scattered units that had survived the space battle were now hiding in the ruins, waiting for opportunities to attack. Captain Dong-ho monitored the situation from orbit and directed his Marines to intercept any hostile contacts. "3rd Battalion, we have detected movement near your position," he reported. "Approximately 20 enemy soldiers heavily armed. Engage and neutralize." Major Oh-ho led the 3rd Battalion toward the enemy position. He was a large man with broad shoulders and a scar across his chin from a battle years ago. His soldiers called him the Bear, and enemies learned quickly why. "Contact," one of his scouts reported. 23 soldiers in a destroyed building. They have prisoners." Ho's blood turned cold. "Prisoners, prisoners." "Yes, Major, looks like civilians. Maybe 12 or 13 of them." "All units, we are changing tactics. This is a hostage rescue. 3rd Squad, prepare flash grenades. 4th Squad, you have the back entrance. 5th Squad, you are with me through the front. We move fast and hard. Save the civilians, no mistakes." The Marines moved with deadly precision. They had trained for situations exactly like this. Every soldier knew their role. Every movement was coordinated. Ho kicked down the front door and threw 2 flash grenades into the building. The grenades exploded with blinding light and deafening noise. The soldiers, caught completely by surprise, stumbled and dropped their weapons. The Marines poured in like water through broken glass. Their rifles fired in quick, controlled bursts. Soldiers fell one after another, dead before they could even understand what was happening. Clear, voices called out from different parts of the building. Ho lowered his weapon and looked around. All 23 soldiers were down. His Marines had not lost a single person. And in the corner of the room, huddled together in terror, were 13 civilians. They were in bad shape, bruised, bleeding, starving. They had not treated them well, but they were alive. "Medical," Ho called out. "Get me medical now." Medics rushed in and began treating the injured. The civilians stared at the human soldiers with shock and confusion. One of them, an elderly female with torn wings, reached out and touched Ho's armored arm. "You killed them," she whispered. "You killed all of them so fast." Ho removed his helmet and looked at her with gentle eyes. "They will never hurt you again, grandmother. You are safe now." The elderly began to cry. "We thought we were going to die. We thought no one cared about us. Why did you come? Why did you fight for us?" Ho thought about the question. It was a question that many species in the galaxy did not understand. Why would humans risk their lives for strangers? Why would they fight and die for people they had never met? "Because it was the right thing to do," he said simply. "Because you needed help. Because we could not stand by and watch innocent people suffer." The elderly took his hand and held it tightly. "You are not monsters," she said through her tears. "The galaxy calls you monsters, but you are not. You are heroes." Ho smiled sadly. "We are just humans, grandmother. This is what we do." As night fell on Prime, the Marines established camps across the planet. Fires were lit. Food was cooked. Refugees were gathered and cared for. Children who had not smiled in weeks began to laugh as human soldiers played games with them. Lieutenant sat beside Ambassador and watched the sunset through the smoke-filled sky. Even through the destruction, there was beauty in the colors that painted the clouds. "Your people are remarkable," said quietly. "I watched your soldiers today. They are warriors, yes. They fight with terrible skill, but they also carry children in their arms. They feed the hungry. They comfort the grieving. How can the same species do both?" Considered the question carefully. "We are complicated, Ambassador. We have done terrible things in our history. Wars, cruelty, destruction. We are not perfect, but we have also learned from our mistakes. We have learned that true strength is not just about winning battles. It is about protecting those who cannot protect themselves." "The galaxy fears you," said. "They call you as if it is an insult." "And maybe it is," replied. "Our world is dangerous. Our evolution was brutal. But that same hardship taught us something important. It taught us that life is precious. Every life. Even the lives of strangers on distant planets who send desperate messages into the void." Was silent for a long moment. Then she spoke again, her voice thick with emotion. "When this is over, when my people have recovered, I will spend the rest of my days telling the galaxy the truth about humans. I will tell them that you are not monsters. I will tell them that you came when no one else would. I will tell them that you fought and died for us without asking for anything in return." Put her hand on shoulder. "Thank you, Ambassador. But right now, the only thing that matters is helping your people survive. Tomorrow we have more work to do, more civilians to rescue, more enemies to defeat. Will you help us?" Straightened her wings and lifted her head. "Yes, Lieutenant, I will help. Together we will save my world." And high above them, in the orbiting flagship, Admiral watched the lights of human camps spread across the dark planet like stars appearing one by one in the night sky. Each light represented hope. Each light represented lives being saved. The battle had been won, but the true work was just beginning. The war room of the flagship Resolve was quiet except for the soft hum of computers and the occasional beep of sensors. Admiral stood at the central display table, studying the tactical map of the system. His officers surrounded him, waiting for his decision. On the display, a single blinking light represented the command ship. It was damaged but not destroyed, floating in the outer reaches of the system under heavy guard. And aboard that ship, Fleet Commander waited to negotiate. "Admiral," Captain Shin Mi-young reported, "the commander has requested a meeting to discuss terms of surrender. He wants to speak with you directly." Stroked his chin thoughtfully. "What does he want?" "He is asking for safe passage for his remaining ships. In exchange, he promises to withdraw all forces from space." The officers around the table shifted uncomfortably. Colonel Han One, the Marine commander, spoke up with barely controlled anger in his voice. "With respect, Admiral, we should not give them anything. They came to this planet and murdered innocent people. They destroyed cities and killed children. Now they want to simply walk away. That is not justice." Nodded slowly. "I understand your feelings, Colonel. Believe me, I share them. But what would you have me do? Destroy their remaining ships and kill everyone aboard? That would make us no better than them." "It would make us practical," one replied. "If we let them go, they will return. Maybe not to, but to some other world. Some other innocent species will suffer because we showed mercy." Commander Park entered the war room, her uniform still stained with the dust of battle. She had been coordinating orbital defense positions and looked exhausted, but her eyes were sharp as she listened to the debate. "Admiral," she said, "may I speak?" Gestured for her to continue. "I have been thinking about this situation since the battle ended. They are bullies. They attack weak species because they believe no one will stop them. Today, we stopped them. We destroyed most of their fleet. We killed thousands of their warriors. We proved that their empire is not as powerful as they believed." "Your point, Commander." Walked to the display table and pointed at the blinking light of the command ship. "If we simply let them go, they will learn nothing. They will tell themselves that they lost only because of bad luck or human trickery. They will recover and continue their conquests. But if we force them to face true consequences, if we make them understand that their actions have a price, perhaps they will think twice before attacking another innocent world." Considered her words carefully. "What kind of consequences?" "A full and unconditional surrender. The fleet does not simply withdraw from space. They formally surrender to the United Nations and accept our terms. Those terms include releasing all prisoners, paying reparations to the people, and publicly admitting their crimes. Commander himself must stand trial for what he has done." Colonel Han grunted with approval. "Now that is justice." "It is more than justice," continued. "It is a message to the entire galaxy. Attack an innocent species and humans will come. We will not just defeat you in battle. We will hold you accountable for your crimes. Every empire, every warlord, every petty tyrant will hear this message. They will know that there are consequences for cruelty." Looked around the room at his officers. He saw agreement in their eyes. He saw the same righteous anger that burned in his own heart. They had caused immense suffering. They did not deserve mercy. But was also a strategist. He understood that war was not just about winning battles. It was about achieving lasting peace. "Contact Commander," he ordered finally. "Tell him I will meet with him, but make sure he understands that I am not coming to negotiate. I am coming to deliver our terms. He can accept them or face destruction. There is no third option." The meeting took place aboard a neutral transport ship in the space between the two fleets. Admiral arrived with a small escort of Marines, their weapons clearly visible. Commander arrived with his own guards, but they seemed diminished somehow. Their scales were dull. Their posture was defeated. Was even larger in person than had expected. Nearly twice his height, with muscles that could crush a human like paper. But size meant nothing when you had already lost the war. Admiral said, his voice carefully controlled, "I thank you for agreeing to meet." "I did not come to talk, Commander. I came to tell you what will happen now. You may listen or you may die. The choice is yours." His eyes flashed with anger, but he said nothing. He was beaten and he knew it. Continued in a cold, steady voice. "Your fleet is destroyed. Your ground forces have been eliminated. You have no reinforcements coming because your empire does not know what happened here yet. In approximately 4 hours, I will send a message to the describing your complete defeat. But what that message says will depend on what you do in the next few minutes." "What do you want?" growled. "Unconditional surrender. You will release all prisoners immediately. You will turn over all records of your crimes here. You will personally sign a document admitting responsibility for the invasion of Prime, and you will submit yourself to trial for war crimes." Laughed bitterly. "You expect me to simply hand myself over, to accept execution like some common criminal. I expect you to face the consequences of your actions. You murdered thousands of innocent people. You destroyed a peaceful world. You did this for no reason other than greed and cruelty. If you had done these things to humans, you would already be dead. The only reason I am offering you any option at all is because I want the galaxy to see that humans believe in justice, not just vengeance." The commander was silent for a long moment. His guards shifted nervously behind him. They could feel the tension in the room like electricity before a storm. "And if I refuse?" asked finally. Smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Then I will destroy your remaining ships. I will hunt down every soldier still on the planet. I will pursue you to the edges of the galaxy if I must. And when I finally capture you, and I will capture you, I will make sure the entire universe knows that you were too cowardly to face justice like a warrior. Your name will become a joke. Your empire will be shamed. Is that what you want, Commander? Is your pride worth more than your legacy?" His hands clenched into fists. For a moment, thought the massive alien might attack him. But then the fight drained out of his body. His shoulders slumped. His eyes dropped to the floor. "You have won, Admiral. I will accept your terms." The surrender documents were signed that same day, was taken into custody aboard the Resolve. His remaining officers were transferred to prisoner transport ships. The few soldiers still alive on the planet were rounded up and prepared for trial. Admiral broadcast the news across all galactic frequencies. He described the battle, the surrender, and the justice that would follow. He made sure that every species in the region could hear the message. To all who are listening, this is Admiral of the United Nations Space Fleet. 2 weeks ago, the Empire invaded the planet Prime. They attacked a peaceful species that had no weapons and no military. They killed civilians. They destroyed cities. They believed that no one would stop them. He paused and let the silence stretch out. They were wrong. They sent a message asking for help and humans answered. "We brought our fleet. We brought our warriors. We brought justice. The fleet is destroyed. Their commander has surrendered and will face trial for his crimes. And we will remain here until the world is safe and its people are protected." On worlds across the sector, different species listened to the broadcast with different reactions. Some were frightened by the display of human power. Some were impressed. And some, the weak and the oppressed, felt something they had not felt in years. They felt hope. Ambassador listened to the broadcast from her temporary shelter on the planet's surface. She was surrounded by all of them staring at the communication device with wide eyes. "He did it," whispered. "The human admiral actually did it. He made surrender. He made him face justice." Nodded slowly. "I knew he would. From the moment I spoke with him, I knew he was a man of honor. He did not come here just to fight. He came here to make things right." Around her, they began to talk among themselves. They spoke of the future, of rebuilding, of hope. Children asked when they could go home. Adults began to plan the reconstruction of their cities. The nightmare was ending. but knew that the work was far from over. Thousands had been killed. Entire families had been wiped out. The trauma of the invasion would take generations to heal, and yet somehow she felt optimistic. Because they were not alone anymore. That evening, Admiral came down to the surface to speak with the refugees. He walked among them without guards, without ceremony. He was just a man in a uniform, no different from any of his soldiers. They stared at him with a mixture of awe and gratitude. Some reached out to touch him as he passed, as if to make sure he was real. Others bowed their heads in respect. Children ran up to him and grabbed his hands, chattering excitedly about the human soldiers who had played games with them. Knelt down to speak with one of the children, a young male with bright blue wings. "Hello there, what is your name?" The child answered shyly, "My mother says you are the leader of the humans. Is that true?" "I am the leader of the ships that came to help you," replied. "But I am not the leader of all humans. We have many leaders." "Are they all as strong as you?" Chuckled softly. "Some are stronger, some are wiser, but we are all united when it matters most. When someone needs help, we come together." Tilted his head curiously. "Will you stay? Will you protect us forever?" Looked at the child's hopeful face and felt his heart ache. He could not promise forever. He could not protect everyone from every threat, but he could make a promise that meant something. "We will stay until you are safe," he said. "We will help you rebuild. We will teach you to protect yourselves. And even after we leave, if you ever need us again, all you have to do is call. We will come." Smiled the first real smile had seen on a child since arriving. "Thank you, Admiral. You are very nice for a." Laughed at that, a genuine warm laugh that surprised even himself. "Thank you, and you are very brave for someone so young." He stood up and continued walking through the camp, speaking with refugees, listening to their stories, offering what comfort he could. Behind him, the sun was setting on another day, but tomorrow would be brighter. They were defeated, they were safe, and the galaxy had learned a lesson it would not soon forget. When innocent people call for help, humans answer, and when humans answer, they answer completely. 3 months had passed since the battle for Prime. The skies were still gray with dust, but patches of blue were beginning to show through. The first new buildings had risen from the ruins, their crystal walls catching the light in ways that gave hope to everyone who saw them. Life was returning to the wounded world. Admiral stood on a hillside overlooking the largest refugee camp. It had grown into something more like a small city now, with permanent structures replacing the emergency tents. Human engineers worked alongside builders, sharing knowledge and techniques. Children from both species played together in the streets, their laughter echoing across the valley. Lieutenant approached him with a tablet in her hand. "Admiral, the final reports are ready. We have rescued over 400,000 civilians. All ground forces have been neutralized. The planet is secure." Nodded without taking his eyes off the view. "How many did we lose?" 37 Marines killed in action, 92 wounded. All wounded are expected to recover. 37 lives, 37 families who would receive sad news, 37 heroes who had given everything for strangers on a distant world. Memorized that number. He would carry it with him for the rest of his life. "Their sacrifices will be remembered," he said quietly. "Make sure their names are recorded in the mission archives, and prepare a ceremony for they should know who died protecting them." "Already done, Admiral. Ambassador has requested to speak at the ceremony. She wants to honor our fallen personally." Finally turned to look at. She had changed in these 3 months. The young officer who had first landed on this planet had grown into a confident leader. They adored her. They called her the Guardian of the Wings. "You have done excellent work here," Lieutenant said. "I have recommended you for promotion. When we return to Earth, you will be captain." His eyes widened with surprise. "Admiral, I do not know what to say." "Say you will continue to serve with the same dedication you have shown here. The fleet needs officers like you. The galaxy needs people who care about more than just winning battles. I will not disappoint you, Admiral. Smiled warmly, I know you will not. Across the camp, Ambassador was preparing for her own journey. She had been chosen by the surviving members of the Council to travel to the galactic capital and address the assembly of species. It would be the first time I had spoken to the full assembly since the formation of their government centuries ago. Helped her arrange her formal robes, the deep purple fabric embroidered with silver patterns that represented the old kingdoms. You look beautiful, Ambassador, like the leaders from the ancient stories. Touched the fabric with trembling fingers. I do not feel like a leader, I feel like a survivor who got lucky. Luck had nothing to do with it, replied firmly. You made the call. You reached out to the humans when everyone else said it was impossible. You gave our people hope when we had none. That is leadership, Ambassador. The ceremony to honor the fallen human Marines was held in the central square of the camp. Thousands have gathered to pay their respects. Human soldiers stood in formation, their uniforms clean and their posture perfect. Above them, the flags of Earth flew side by side. Admiral read each of the 37 names aloud. After each name, an elder placed a crystal flower at the base of the memorial stone. It was a tradition to honor the dead with crystals that would never fade. When the last name had been read, Ambassador stepped forward to speak. I stand here today because of these brave humans, she began, her voice carrying across the silent crowd. 3 months ago, my world was dying. My people were being slaughtered. I sent a desperate message into the void, hoping that anyone would answer. The humans answered. She paused and looked at the human soldiers standing at attention. They did not know us, they had never met us. We had nothing to offer them in return for their help, but they came anyway, they fought for us. They bled for us. 37 of them died for us. Complete strangers dying for people they would never even meet. Tears began to flow down her face, but she did not stop speaking. The galaxy calls humans, they say it as if it is something to fear, but I have seen the truth. Yes, humans come from a dangerous world. Yes, they are capable of incredible violence, but they use that strength to protect the weak. They use that violence to defend the innocent. They are not monsters. They are the greatest heroes the galaxy has ever known. She turned to face Admiral directly. Admiral, I do not have the words to express what you have done for my people, but I can make you a promise. I am traveling to the galactic capital tomorrow. I will stand before the assembly of species, and I will tell them the truth about humanity. I will tell them that you answered our call when no one else would. I will tell them that you fought and died for us without asking for anything in return. And I will tell them that if they ever need help, if they ever face darkness and despair, they should do what I did. They should call the humans. The crowd erupted in cheers, and humans embraced each other. Children waved flags and shouted joyfully. For a moment, it seemed like all the suffering had been worth it. After the ceremony, found alone on the hillside where he had stood that morning, she was looking at the sunset, her wings spread slightly to catch the fading warmth. May I join you, Ambassador? He asked. Of course, Admiral. This is your planet as much as it is mine now. Sat beside her on the grass. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. They simply watched the colors change in the sky. Finally broke the silence. Why did you come? Looked at her with curiosity. You know why. You sent a message asking for help. Yes, but that is not really an answer. They received my message. They did not come. They received my message. They did not come. The Quinn Collective received my message and sent condolences. 50 species in this region of space could have helped us and none of them did. But you came. You crossed vast distances, risked your ships and your soldiers, and threw yourselves into a war that had nothing to do with you. Why? Thought about the question for a long time before answering. When I was a child, he said slowly, my grandmother told me a story. It was about a traveler walking on a beach after a great storm. The beach was covered with starfish that had been washed ashore. They were dying in the sun. There were thousands of them, too many for one person to save. But the traveler picked up one starfish and threw it back into the ocean. Then another. Then another. He paused and smiled slightly. A stranger came by and asked the traveler why he was bothering. There were too many starfish to save. His efforts were meaningless. But the traveler picked up another starfish and threw it into the sea. Then he said to the stranger, "It mattered to that one," listened with her large eyes fixed on his face. "That is why we came, Ambassador, because it mattered to you, because every life is valuable even if we cannot save everyone, because helping others, even when it costs us, even when it hurts, is what makes us human." Reached out and took his hand in her 4 delicate fingers. "You are a remarkable species, Admiral. I hope someday my people can be half as brave." "You already are," replied. "You survived. You kept your people alive in the darkness. You reached out for help when pride would have told you to stay silent. That takes courage, Ambassador. Never doubt that." The sun finally disappeared below the horizon, leaving the sky painted in shades of purple and gold. Stars began to appear, tiny points of light in the vastness of space. Stood up and helped to her feet. "I must return to my ship. The fleet is preparing to depart." "You are leaving?" asked with surprise and sadness in her voice. "Most of the fleet, yes, but 2 ships will remain to assist with reconstruction for another year, and I have arranged for regular supply runs from Earth. You will not be abandoned, Ambassador. Not ever." "Will you return someday?" Smiled. "I will try. But even if I cannot, remember what I told the little boy. If you ever need us again, just call. We will come." Nodded solemnly. "I will remember, and I will make sure the galaxy remembers too." 1 week later, Ambassador stood before the assembly of species on the galactic capital world. The great hall was filled with representatives from hundreds of different species, all watching her with curious eyes. She told them the story of the invasion. She told them about the desperate message sent into the void. She told them about the humans who had answered. She described the battle, the rescue, the justice that followed. And she told them about the 37 Marines who had died protecting people they had never met. When she finished speaking, the hall was silent. Some representatives looked thoughtful, others looked afraid. A few whispered among themselves about the implications of what they had heard. Then slowly one representative began to applaud. Then another. Then another. Soon the entire hall was filled with the sound of clapping, cheering, and stamping feet. Species that had feared humans for centuries now saw them in a different light. The ambassador approached after the speech. "That was a powerful message, Ambassador. You have changed how many of us view the humans." "I only told the truth," replied. "The truth should change how everyone views them." "Perhaps, but I must ask, do you really believe they would help others the way they helped you? Species they have never met, species that have nothing to offer." Smiled with complete confidence. "Yes, I believe it with all my heart, because that is who they are. They are humans. They answer calls for help, and when they answer completely." Far away in the Sol system, Admiral stood on the observation deck of a space station orbiting Mars. His fleet had returned home to rest and refit. New officers were being trained. New ships were being built. The United Nations was already preparing for the next crisis, wherever it might come. A young officer approached him with a message tablet. "Admiral, we have received a transmission from the system. Ambassador wanted you to know that her speech was successful. Several species have already asked about establishing diplomatic relations with Earth." Nodded with satisfaction. "Good. Perhaps this is the beginning of something new, something better." He looked out at the stars and wondered how many other species were out there, suffering in silence because they believed no one would help them. How many more calls would come? How many more battles would they fight? He did not know the answer, but he knew one thing for certain. Whenever those calls came, humans would answer. They would always answer. Because that is what humans do.